You seem to love being a father of your two girls.
Yeah.
So what's one thing you've learned from being a father that's helped you be a better leader?
Man, so many things. But those two girls, I think, have taught me to be a better listener.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when they were really young and I was giving them an opportunity to explain themselves. You know, you imagine whatever situation, and sometimes it's through tears, sometimes it's, through pure anger, but they're articulating why they reached that point. And you're like, oh my gosh, there's actually a lot of thought in there that resulted in this terrible decision, but I see how you got there. And then as they got a little older, I remember making sure that they knew they could call me out on things.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to be perfect. So if you see something, let me know. And so I think, just being able to listen to other people and be able to take feedback, they helped me.
Welcome to the Culture Gooder podcast with Stephen Leese and Sean Tinney. This podcast is a behind-the-shades look at creating and changing culture inside of Goodr sunglasses. You can live with the status quo, you can challenge the status quo, or you can do what we do at Goodr and status the quo challenge.
Hi, you're listening to a 6-part series where I'm interviewing each of our department heads. At Goodr, we call our department heads Flockstars. Enjoy. We have a very special guest today, my good friend, colleague, and Coors Light mentor, Mike Mountain. Mountain, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Oh, living the dream.
Nice.
So Mountain is the Flockstar of our ops herd. To the outside world, you're known as our COO.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into the details of your role and your team and everything that you do, give us a story about you growing up that led to the person you are today.
Well, I would say the thing that sticks out is I grew up in a family of athletes, my dad and my brother. And I remember one time we had this above ground pool that we had to basically get rid of because somebody put a hockey puck through it. And we brought in all this dirt to fill the hole in, right? And it was my job to basically rake out the dirt. And so I'm working on this for hours and hours. And finally I come in and my dad's like, how's it going? And I'm like, I can't get this thing flat. There's a huge mound out there. And he goes, let's go look. He comes outside, he looks at the mound, and then he paces off 60 feet, 6 inches to the corner of the yard. We kept the mound, built a pitcher's mound, and he taught me how to pitch right there.
Oh my God, that's incredible. Was the puck yours? That put a hole in it?
My parents have never heard the story, so
yeah, okay.
It might have been my brother's.
All right, yeah, I won't ruin your secret. What did that teach you about your, Jack Mountain?
I think it was an awful situation in terms of like that workload, but like he finished it off with something pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And again, family of athletes, like he turned a game into anything. And so that just always stayed with me.
Yeah. I love how he took lemon, made lemonade.
Yep.
And that actually, I think sums up you in a nutshell.
I suck at pitching, but I got a pretty good pickoff move.
So tell our listeners about your role, your department, lame title, fun title, department name, primary focus.
Yeah, so lame title, COO, fun title, smooth operator.
Oh, yeah.
And our department, our herd is operations. And so we have the product team, which is responsible for taking the creative vision, developing prototypes, and getting that ready for production.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the supply chain team, and it's almost like, what don't they do, right? Like they do all the planning, they do all the purchasing, the production, the logistics, manage inventory, like end to end. Then we have the distribution center, which is responsible for getting all the orders into people's hands. And then we have a new team, quality and regulations, which is making sure all the specs are up to date and the regulations are hit. So yeah, it's a great team.
That's awesome. What's your herd's vision, like primary focus for this year?
This year is about creating a foundation for scale. So we have a lot of projects that are basically setting us up for huge growth in the future.
Yeah, obviously scaling is something that we've been focusing on for a while.
Mm-hmm.
How will we know when we have like ingrained scale into our culture?
Amazing question to start. We're focusing on 3 major areas, right? Like product quality, speed to market, our NASA check. I'm sure you've talked about that.
Yeah.
So like making sure that we have all our insights locked up for the next 3 years. We will know when we're not looking around going, oh my God, how did we outgrow this building?
Yeah. We actually saw it ahead of time.
Right.
Fair enough. So what is your day-to-day like here?
I mean, it depends on what day. Like the week starts off with the week review, sets up the entire week. Pretty lost without it. But I would say like the main time in the office is working with the teams. I'm in a variety of meetings, and I think the headline is problem solving. There's always something that comes up process wise that we could be better at. And so I feel like that's what we're mostly doing on a day-to-day basis is just problem solving.
What is your balance of leading versus doing right now?
Right now, it's actually a lot more leading than it is doing. I would say I would spend about 60 to 70% of my time leading and coaching versus doing.
That feels right.
Yeah.
What's the funnest part about your role right now?
The variety.
Oh yeah, go on.
So depending on who I'm talking to or what team I'm working with, it's a completely different topic. So that changes throughout the day, that changes day to day. So it actually keeps things really interesting when you're talking about new topics all the time.
I mean, I'm a big believer in variety is the spice of life.
Yeah.
It's really nice. How do you stay focused?
Make sure I track everything so that whatever I just left, I have a trail to come back to and monitor as opposed to just kind of being scattered. You got to stay organized.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're a big weekly review person like me, and for our listeners out there, we start the week every Monday. I have my schedule marked off till noon. What's yours?
Yeah, same.
Yeah, so nothing at the company. You can't have a meeting before 2:00 on a Monday. And my week is like the linchpin of my week is that weekly review. Are you the same way?
Absolutely. If that doesn't happen, I'm toast the rest of the week. I don't know what's coming at me and when.
High level, what are some of like the checkpoints on your weekly review?
Calendar is a big one for me.
Yeah.
I look at the week before, see what I need to recap, anything I might have missed, some follow up, and then I look at the next 2 weeks so that I can understand what's coming down the pipe. And then I hit a number of projects that I've got open up. What are the next actions? What do I need to do?
How many weeks a year do you think you miss it?
3.
And it's just what is it like afterwards?
Oh, it's a dumpster fire.
Yeah. I mean, I know. Yeah. It is an unsettling feeling.
Yep.
What's the hardest part about your role right now?
I'm coming off a stretch where I was the flock leader for product,
Yeah.
the DC, and the Flockstar for the herd. And I'm sitting here today on the other side of that with a full team, and it's almost impossible for me to talk about the hardest part of my job because that was, so difficult. So I guess what I would say is the hard part is when a team member isn't there and I'm filling in, I've got to cover both roles and make sure everything gets done.
Explain the analogy, 3 dogs in a bathtub.
All right.
I love this.
Got 3 teams typically, right? And keeping everyone in green, meaning there's no fires, everything's going smoothly, is nearly impossible for all 3 at the same time. And the vision I have in my head is of these 3 pretty large dogs in a bathtub, right? Like just covered in sud. And one of them is just kind of side-eyeing you, like waiting to make a break for it. The paw comes out and you're like, don't do it. And the second you turn away, that guy's gone.
Every time you get all 3 in, one jumps back out.
Right. You got 2 hands, 3 dogs.
Oh,
impossible.
I love that analogy. You spent the past 15 years pre-goodr working primarily in sports product development. How has that benefited you in your current role?
I think one of the main benefits has been just an understanding of the company at large. So whatever decisions made in terms of product had such a ripple effect through other departments, whether it's sales, customer service, operations, finance, just understanding that those decisions you make have an impact all the way down the line. So you need to really take a step back and look at the larger picture. And that's what that's done for me. Or pretty early on, I decided it didn't matter to me what product I was working on.
Yeah.
I more enjoyed how it got made and making sure it got there efficiently.
Yeah, the systems and processes are more important than the product.
Totally.
What have been the ranges of products, though, you have been working on?
So mostly hard goods, sports equipment, baseball, hockey. Got into the fitness industry for a little bit, doing spinning bikes and Pilates equipment and CrossFit gear.
What's the most annoying product you've had to work on?
Oh man, we had a hockey stick one year where there was a co-molded part on the heel.
Yeah.
And that thing kept popping out. And every time it did, like I felt it deep inside every time that happened. So in looking back on it, we just weren't ready to launch.
Yeah.
So that was a big lesson.
I was expecting to be like a Pilates machine or a spinning bike because there's so many moving parts.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, but if they stay together,
it's fine. That's fair. What's something small and obscure you love about goodr?
I think certainly from somebody outside these walls, like that doesn't understand goodr stock, is the energy that comes together. And depending on the time of year, right, it could be a culmination of an outrageous amount of hard work and vision of what we're going to do, or it could be a celebration where a handful of people are on stage having a shotgun contest.
Yeah.
Like there's just so much energy and excitement in those moments. It's one of my favorite weeks of the year.
I do have a lot of fun, just small connection moments during goodr stock where you're just talking to somebody in another department that you might never talk to, and you get to share this wonderful experience.
Yeah, exactly.
It's cool. So I believe you'd be a great dad. I have written here, like, you're a great dad. I'm like, well, that's, I believe you'd be a great dad. You seem to love being a father of your two girls.
Yeah.
So what's one thing you've learned from being a father that's helped you be a better leader?
Man, so many things. But those two girls, I think, have taught me to be a better listener.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when they were really young and I was giving them an opportunity to explain themselves. You imagine whatever situation, and sometimes it's through tears, sometimes it's, through pure anger, but they're articulating why they reached that point. And you're like, oh my gosh, there's actually a lot of thought in there that resulted in this terrible decision, but I see how you got there. And then as they got a little older, I remember making sure that they knew they could call me out on things.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to be perfect. So if you see something, let me know. And so I think, just being able to listen to other people and be able to take feedback, they helped me.
Oh, for sure. I actually want to know if you agree with this analogy. I don't have children, but I kind of refer, I'm like, well, I don't have children, but I have 130 children. They're all at goodr. Do you kind of view people on your team obviously they're not your daughters. Like, do you kind of, is that same feeling of like a parental relationship?
Definitely protective.
Yeah.
Right. And then wanting to see them grow.
Yeah.
Like understanding like what their goals are, what their motivation is, what brought them here. There is a little bit of that. And there's some of them that are young enough where they could almost fit that role right now.
So you and I love creating maps, right? Like areas of focus, Vision 321. We for sure share that. And for our listeners out there, that is Vision 321. All of our teams have these focuses. So it's really a roadmap to the future. Why do you like it so much? And why do you think other people should just learn to love this?
I mean, for me, it comes down to organization. Yeah. I love having everything in its place. And I mean, one of my passions is taking something that's somewhat chaotic and like applying a structure to it. And so just organizing everything in and of itself, I can't understand why anybody wouldn't want that.
Yeah.
There's one level where you can organize something to where you can find anything. I mean, like we've all walked into a room and looked around and gone, what is going on here? And this person is like, ask me anything. I'll tell you where it is, right? That's all well and good. But then if you can organize it to a level where anyone can find anything, I mean, that's amazing, right? Like that's what we strive for.
Yeah. There is this thing that happens where initially everybody wants to think, oh, well, I know what's going on. So, well, these organizations isn't for you. That's for everyone.
Right. Exactly.
So if you decide if you win the lottery tomorrow and you're leaving, it'd be nice to leave this place better than you found it.
Yeah, totally. Every once in a while, you'll catch like a folder on a drive with someone's name. Yeah. And you're like, no.
Our DC team is in your herd. And this past year at the Flamingo Awards, which is our end of the year award show for our listeners out there, and 33 people at the company will win like a full on Flamingo Award, and two people from that team won, and the crowd goes wild, and you just feel this energy. What was it like being able to present those?
It is incredible to actually present anybody with that award, and that team in particular, they grind so much, right? Like we're talking 6 a.m. starts, 7 a.m. starts, sometimes 10 p.m. finishes. I mean, they're going all day and they're going hard, and they all deserve accolades. But there was a couple of people that really stood out for their work ethic, and they've earned the respect of the entire team. And to be able to call their names and hear the energy in that room was pretty incredible.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, Shuey and Reese are just such like good people, great colleagues. It was a magical experience to see those two get a Flamingo Award.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So this is the Culture Gooder podcast, and in the context of the workplace, what does culture mean to you?
Well, I feel like number one, it's a place that I'm excited to go to day in and day out. It's a place that challenges me and the team around me. And it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail and attempt things and strive for big goals. And then finally, I would say like just being transparent, not only with like what the goals of the company are, but where you fit in and where you stand, I think is really important. That's to me, that's what makes our culture. I do get this question when I'm interviewing people, and I give them a chance to ask me something. They'll say, what is your favorite part about the culture? And my favorite answer is, that feeling you get on Sunday night when your like weekend is over and like now the work week starts. And their answer is always like, oh, it's the worst. And I go, I don't get that.
Sunday scaries, I don't have them.
Nope.
I really wish your answer was, ping pong table. That's what culture means to me.
Right.
What do you think are like the three common traits of the people who thrive here at Goodr?
Number one, organization. We've talked about that. And I feel like we expect a lot of people, and there's no chance you can honestly keep up with everything if you don't have everything organized in its place. And then the other one, preparation.
Yeah.
Like you can see when somebody shows up ready to go.
For sure.
You can feel it, right? Like when they walk into a room and they start a meeting or they kick off a project, you're like, this person came to play.
Yeah.
And then you can see when other people took fun as the direction.
Yeah.
And they show up all smiles and nothing is where it's supposed to be. And you're like, oh no.
Right. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes prepared.
Yeah.
And you just know when people show up prepared. It's a wonderful feeling to watch.
Yeah. Recently I heard something where amateurs will practice until they get it right.
Yeah.
And pros will practice until they can't get it wrong.
Oh, I like that.
I love that. And I feel like there are some people here that just take that to another level.
I completely agree. We value feedback here at Goodr. So give me some feedback and something I can do better at.
I feel like you can lean on the Flockstars more than you do.
Yep.
I mean, you've got a team of pretty incredible people right around you.
Yeah.
And you are very ingrained in a lot of aspects of the company, and just allow that team to carry that weight even more than you do now. I've seen a couple examples where I'm like, we could have definitely taken that.
Well, give me an example.
There was a project that came up the other day.
Yeah.
Around, it was product quality, right? And you kicked it off, and I'm like, he should have looked at me and said, here's what's going on.
Yeah.
Here's what needs to happen. And I would have turned around and said, let's go. I got this.
I completely agree. It's for sure a practice. I was watching Star Trek the other night because I fucking love Star Trek.
Yeah.
And something happens on the ship, and Captain Picard has the senior officers room, and he's like, this is what's going on. I want a execution plan at 800 hours tomorrow from all of you. Just leaves. And I'm like, can I do that? Can I like,
that sounds great.
Yeah. Can I pull that rank of like, all right, here, this is what's going on. Here's what I want from everybody. Everybody good? I'm out.
Yeah. And then sling the golf bag over your shoulder.
No, it's for sure. I think one of the hardest things about this company taking it from inception and growing it to this place is going from having to do everything to actually not having to do anything if you don't want to. And it is a wildly uncomfortable feeling for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's shared, right? Like
Yes.
we're all doers.
Yeah.
And to get to a point where now you are coaching and leading is difficult to pull yourself out.
Yeah. No, but your feedback is very well received. It's something that I would love to hone that skill better.
Yeah. And by the way, like I took this note the other day when that happened.
Yeah.
The next day, you hit me up directly on something and I'm like, son of a, I didn't even get a chance to give him that feedback yet.
Yeah. So our 3 strategic anchors are product, marketing, and culture. We started with product. That was number 1 from the beginning. Then we found our voice with marketing. And I always say that we sell fun along with sunglasses.
Right.
And then in about 2019, I would say our 3rd strategic anchor became people and our amazing culture and how everybody levels up here. So in 2025, we are targeting operations to be our 4th strategic anchor.
Yeah.
We tell our listeners the origin of that and how you stamp that as done in 2025. Like, what does finished look like?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we're going to have to continue to define between now and then for sure, because that's part of the problem solving. We're always identifying things that we're coming up short on. But number 1, we want to tackle logistics. We want to make sure not only our inbound, but also our outbound to all of our customers is just arriving with what we were calling jaw-dropping delivery.
Yeah.
You know, I've had experiences where things arrive at my door and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That's what we want for all of our customers. And then operationally, internally, like how we get there, it's about effort, no wasted effort, and make sure that everything is efficient from one step to another.
Yeah. What was the goal we set? Like 95% of the country in under 48 hours?
Yes. Yeah, 2 years.
Which I think is doable. I mean, we've made some major strides in the past 12 months.
And a lot of those customers are going to be getting their stuff next day, which is just incredible.
Yeah, it is we've really leveled up. I'm really excited to kind of see moving from this point next year, what our like average purchase to arrival time is, because I think it's going to be 5 times faster than we've ever had before.
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we're giving us out here with what I call the lightning round. It's actually not really a lightning round anyway.
Yep.
I called it a lightning round originally, and then as I've interviewed other Flockstars, I'm like, this isn't a fucking lightning round. It's all good.
These are long answers.
These are long answers. If you could wave a magic wand and change one thing at goodr, what would it be?
Shower.
You want to shower here?
I want to shower here.
So that you can work out more?
We can work out, run, clean up, hit the rest of the day.
And we have a garden hose out back.
That might be the answer. That's a pretty weak wand.
Yeah, I mean, we'll try and get you a shower here. How have you challenged the status quo recently?
One of the ways was, we look at dashboards every week in our company-wide meeting, and I felt like we had outgrown the format.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see more of a high-level goal that each department is working on as opposed to a lot of the minutia. And so, I suggested that, and now we have these great new dashboards for TWC.
Oh, that's incredible. On that note, I just kind of thought about this. Will you explain to our listeners what the Flamingle is and why it's so impactful?
Yeah, so the Flamingo started years ago at 8:15.
Yeah.
And it brought in everybody in the DC and just sort of set the tone for the day. Who's going to be doing what kind of orders we had in the system. And that has grown and evolved so much to where now it's in the middle of the day. It gives the team a nice break. And we have other flock leaders from the company come in and host those meetings and explain what their departments are doing, what their initiatives are, how the DC has impacted them. And then we talk about numbers for the week, what we need to do to achieve it, how we're tracking. And I mean, it has brought the culture of the company to the DC and vice versa. And so it's an amazing half-hour break in the day.
It is really incredible. We've been on this long-term initiative to make sure that we infuse our culture with the DC and there's no us versus them. And this is a huge part of it. What else kind of helps contribute to bringing the DC into the fold of the day-to-day of goodr?
Well, a couple of the ways are during our onboarding, we have the new class come out to the warehouse and we do competitions and box folding parties, and we can see we break everybody up into teams and who can complete the most boxes in that time frame. And it's a really good way for everybody to connect, to meet the folks in the DC. And it's our sneaky way of getting boxes folded for free.
I love that. I mean, I loved during Black Friday, Cyber Monday week, and the World Cup was going on. There was always packing parties revolving around watching World Cup games, which is a pretty a smooth way of getting help in there.
Always looking for cheap labor.
Tell me about a recent fuck up and how you owned it and fixed it.
I had a presentation recently that I had spent a lot of time preparing for. And I remember getting up on stage ready to deliver it. And I knew I didn't have it in the first 30 seconds. I'm like, son of a, I have thought about this and prepared for this for so long, but I am not delivering right now. And once I was done and I sat down, everything kind of swirls around in your head, right? What you could have done, what you should have done. And I owned up to it. I apologized to the team. I said, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't bring my A game like I wanted to. And we're going to change this format completely around the next time we do this so that that doesn't happen again.
We were talking this morning about this thing you see here at goodr a lot, which is what you're talking about, where people actually are realizing in real time when they didn't deliver on a presentation or a meeting. And it's almost, as long as people are self-aware that they didn't show up, it's actually all good, right?
Right. I mean, perfection is not the expectation.
Yeah.
The expectation is just knowing when you're on and when you're not so you can correct it next time.
And right, being a leader of the company, it's really important to share that so that when somebody on your team inevitably is going to show up the same way, hopefully they can reflect and not let it happen again.
Yeah, if you don't own it, then why should anybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What project excites you the most right now at goodr?
I mean, it would have to be getting East Coast distribution.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a big part of how we're going to improve logistically and operationally and reaching our customers in like a fraction of the time that we have today.
What % of our business is east of the Mississippi?
65.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just went live with a East Coast 3PL, so we are moving quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's something that excites you right now in your everyday life that's not goodr related?
Oh, I would have to say getting my knee back on track.
Oh, yeah.
I had surgery a couple months ago, and so I'm in rehab working towards getting back on the ice. And so that's like where all my focus is.
When will you be back on the ice?
I mean, they're telling me the fall, but it feels like to me late summer. I'm thinking July. My physical therapist, I don't think is thinking the same thing.
I like the cut of your jib. All right, last question here. What are you most proud of at your time here at goodr?
All right, so kind of a lesser known thing. I remember having a conversation with Sean years ago about our AMP scores, our reviews. And I said, wouldn't it be nice if we could present anybody that receives a Flamingo, our highest achievement, with an award?
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so that turned into me. I don't know if you remember this, the hilarious Flamingo garden gnomes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the original Flamingo Awards. Yeah.
And, but what I'm proud of is what that's turned into. I mean, people have taken that idea and run with it, and now it's an incredible night.
Yeah, it is quite wild where, I mean, just so our listeners are grounded in this, in 2020, we did a cruise for Goodrstock, and it was the first time we handed out Flamingo Awards, and it was this Amazon. It was actually kind of perfect. It was like this 2 foot tall Amazon plaster flamingo gnome.
Yeah, that's it.
and it was still really fun to like award people with that. Flash forward a year later, we kicked off the first annual Flamingo Awards, and basically it's Academy Awards, but goodr.
Yeah.
And now it's a full-on award show. That's so wild. You're right. I did not remember the trace back of that history until you said that.
Yeah. So I was thinking about it when we were sitting there in that room and people are dressed all incredibly with that trophy in their hands. And I remember that gnome and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah. In 2021, the first Flamingo Awards, remember, I was like, we're going from this trophy, and I had it in a sack because they would break.
Because they were broken.
To this one. Oh, for sure. Well, thank you for that, sparking that.
Sure.
Awesome, Mountain. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, listeners. See you in hell.
Thanks for listening to the Culture Goodr podcast. To submit questions for the podcast, learn more about our culture, and learn how you can status the quote challenge, head over to goodr.com/culture. And don't forget to subscribe to us wherever you're listening, including on YouTube, where you can now watch all of our new episodes. Who knows? You might even catch a glimpse of Carl at our headquarters if he's not already passed out at the tiki bar from all the margaritas.